What's going on, guys? No Job Rob here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, just wanted to take a little bit of a departure from the normal subject matter. Usually we talk about business and personal development related subjects here, but I want to take a few minutes today to cover something that I feel is a significant event in the world of music, and that would be the impending release of a new Tool album for the first time in 13 years. So if you're not familiar, Tool has garnered one of the most devoted fan bases over the course of the last 30 years. I believe they've won 3 Grammys and a host of other awards, but I first got into Tool when I was 11, when Lateralis was released, and even though they've only given me one new album so far, until about 5 days from now, over the course of the last 18 years, they're a band whose music is so nuanced and cerebral and well thought out that I can return to it at different points in my life and find something brand new to appreciate about it. When I was a teenager, some of the raw conviction of their earlier material really resonated with me, and as I got a bit older and I started studying music formally, various aspects of their musicianship and their composition really grabbed my attention. And now that I'm even older and trying to understand the nature of myself and the world around me, a lot of the themes of spirituality and growth and personal discovery I've found contain a lot of wisdom as far as how a person can go about striving for inner peace. But as it relates to the new material, I had some skepticism as to how good it would be, mainly as a result of Maynard and his approach to making music over the course of the last several years. I really felt with some of the later A Perfect Circle material and some of his solo material like Pussifer, he had really gotten away from what made him such a great vocalist and frontman. And what I mean by that is a lot of the subtlety and understatedness of the way that he sang was missing, and instead it just kind of became too much Maynard. Like, his voice was very forward in the mixes of some of the newer material, and he was just trying to do too much. He was trying to incorporate all these like soulful inflections to his voice, and it was just very indulgent. It was just too much Maynard, which is something that I would have never expected to say. But in the past, he left you wanting more, both in terms of just the scarcity of the material that you were able to listen to him in, and also just the way that he never wanted to take center stage. You know, oftentimes even at live shows, he would be hiding in the back, and his voice would sort of weave in and out of the mix of what the other band members were doing. And honestly, I heard a couple of songs from the new A Perfect Circle record, and I could already tell that I was going to hate the entire thing. As much as I love A Perfect Circle, particularly the first 2 albums that they made, I was just like, I'm out on this. I can already tell what I'm in for. So getting to the song that they released, the title track Fear Inoculum. So my first impressions of it were, okay, it's distinctly Tool, and it's new Tool, which is certainly not a negative, but it felt like they were making a concerted effort to try to recreate things that they had already done. And I believe that every artist seems to have a finite amount of good ideas. I think Tom York might be the only exception I can think of to this. But every artist, no matter how good they are, they seem to struggle to recapture that magic, you know, after a certain amount of albums. All their best, freshest ideas are behind them. And I suspected that that would probably happen after such a long reprieve from the last album. There were already some signs of it on 10,000 Days. I still thought the material was outstanding on 10,000 Days. Overall, it didn't leave such a timeless impression maybe as the other albums did, but I still love it and listen to it regularly to this day. But Fear Inoculum struck me as somewhat of an effort to harken back to Lateralis, particularly the song Reflection, just the way that it kind of tried to create an ethereal vibe while having a heavy presence of the tribal drumming. So it's something that I enjoy, but it's something that they've already done and done better in the past. So not only was it not exactly the pinnacle of their creativity, but some of my fears were affirmed when the vocals came in, and I heard Maynard, again, very forward in the mix, trying to incorporate a lot of inflections that just didn't quite sound like they were quite in place. But again, I was like, okay, I mean, it's very rhythmic, which is something that I love about Tool. I love the syncopated rhythms. I love the grooves that they're able to conceive. I love the way that they can be heavy and melodic at the same time. So there was a lot of that going on, which was great. But then you get into the chorus, and the melody, I even hesitate to call it a melody. He's just going back and forth between 2 or 3 notes, and it was very overproduced. It seemed like they made every effort to make his voice as resonant and as present as they possibly could, but that never had to be so concerted in the past. It was just so forced. So it continues on from there, and one thing I will say, with a runtime of over 10 minutes, it's certainly not a boring song. It does a good job of keeping the listener engaged, moving along from section to section. And what you see is they still made an effort to introduce themes earlier on in the music, so that when they recalled and sort of reprised them later on in the piece, it would carry more weight. It would make everything feel more cohesive for the listener and that much more satisfying. But again, it was just another example of almost as as though they were trying to sound like Tool instead of make the best piece of music that they could. But before you get to that climax, when a lot of the themes are reintroduced, there's one particular section that really bothers me. I pretty much cringe every time I listen to it. I've listened to the song, I would say in total, about half a dozen times in close succession. And many of you, if you've heard it, know what I'm talking about. There's a particular chanting passage later on in the piece, and there's sort of like an offbeat, palm-muted rhythm going on, and Maynard is chanting something on multiple tracks. And it just sounds so cheesy to me. It's so off. Like either they're that out of touch or they were just that lazy, because it's hard for me to believe that all of the band members were like, yes, this is exactly up to par with what we need for this part of the song right now. So I think the best analogy that I would have for this piece of music and what it portends for the rest of the album is that it reminds me a lot of the last season of Game of Thrones. I'd be interested to hear if anyone else looks at it the same way, but a lot of the issues that people had with the final season of Game of Thrones as far as how the showrunners mailed in a lot of the writing, it was clear that they already had a foot out the door and they weren't giving their heart and soul into making the best season that they could. You know, clearly over 13 years there wasn't any great eagerness to make this album. It was almost as if they felt obligated to do so, and it kind of shows in this song. So at the end of the song you get a typical Tool type build-up, you know, a lot of frantic drumming, melodic bass lines that are designed to really enhance the ostinatos that the guitar is doing. But because it was something that we've heard before and we've heard done better, it just felt very predictable and underwhelming to me. So I went into it with virtually no, or you could say low, expectations. And if you want to say low, then unfortunately I'd have to say that they met them. But Tool kind of grew to become a genre in and of themselves. You know, so many bands have been compared to them, but no one really sounds like them. And you can't really place them in a specific category. It's not really alternative rock or metal. This was another installation into that very specific, rare genre. And by virtue of that, it was mostly enjoyable to hear. Again, there's certain parts where it's, you know, not quite landing, but it does a lot of things fairly well. So from someone whom I'd have to admit probably fit the Tool stereotype of what a fan would resemble at one point in time, you know, when I was younger, I would probably consider myself like one of the Tool evangelists, you know, someone who thinks that they're more sophisticated than other people because they listen to Tool, or that they're better, their tastes are better. I still have the same love for them, it just doesn't matter to me if other people love them or not. It pains me to do this, but if I were to put a score on Fear Inoculum, I'd have to give the song a 7 out of 10. I initially said 6, but I think that there was sort of like an emotional knee-jerk displeasure to especially some of the vocal decisions and again some of the underwhelming composition. But after a couple more listens, I appreciated some of the things that it did well. But I'm kind of in the same place as far as my expectations for the new album. Again, I'm not expecting it to be a masterpiece whatsoever, which again is a shame because we've waited 13 years for it. You know, I've had points where I felt very disgruntled towards the band, and I know they certainly don't owe me anything, but I still felt as though I had been a loyal fan for a long time, and you know, I had stuck with them for years and years and years with really nothing in return. And I guess I hoped at different points to an extent that I would be at least somewhat rewarded or vindicated, but it looks like we're heading for an unsatisfying conclusion. But maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just the worst song on the album, and I'm still gonna go into it with an open mind, listen intently, and you know, try to appreciate everything that I can about it. So I'd be really interested to hear if you guys have listened to it, what you think about it, especially if you're a longtime Tool fan or whatever the case may be for you, or maybe you can go listen to it now and come back and tell me what you think. I'd love to have an intelligent discussion about it in the comments, so definitely encourage you guys to you know, share your thoughts. So thank you guys for checking out the video. Let me know if you like this format or if you just want me to stick to the normal stuff. Again, usually on this video we talk about making money online, entrepreneurship, the concepts of time, location, and financial freedom, anything that I learned that can help you guys in that regard. So if you'd like to help me out by throwing a like on this video, I would appreciate it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. I'll be coming back at you very soon with more uploads on the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day, everybody.